Congratulations to both. John?
Who here is from Minnesota? Who here has been to Minnesota? Who in the audience is from Thailand? Who here has been to Thailand? Well, what do these two distinct parts of the world have in common? Any differences? Well, today we'll meet someone very familiar with both of these corners of the world. 47 years ago, a teenager from southern Thailand traveled to Minnesota for a year-long study abroad high school AFS program. But from Minnesota, after a year studying there, this man returned home to start his university studies at Thammasat University in Bangkok. I guess wanderlust or whatever took off, and he found his way crossing the Pacific Ocean again in 2 years to finish his first degree in political science at Claremont College in California. But from California, he went the other way out to Boston, Massachusetts to pursue both a master's degree and then a doctorate in Middle Eastern Studies at Harvard University. During the early years of his career, this accomplished student studied Arabic and conducted research in the field of Middle Eastern Studies for a year and a half in Cairo at the American University, Cairo, where Dina is from. For nearly 2 years, he also worked, for nearly 2 decades, he also worked as a columnist in 2 English language newspapers in Bangkok, Thailand. Originally from the south of Thailand, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan taught political science at his home university, Thammasat University. But back in the US again, he became an intern in the congressional office of US Representative Geraldine Ferraro during the time when she was running for US Vice President. But Dr. Pitsuwan crossed the aisle of the US Congress to also work for the Senate Republican Conference while teaching Southeast Asian Studies at American University. After his experience in American politics, Dr. Pitsuwan decided he would enter Thai politics, and he ran for the Thai Parliament again and again and again, serving a full 9 terms. This led to higher offices in the Thai House of Representatives, Thai governmental ministries, commissions of the United Nations, commissions in ASEAN, the 10-nation organization of Southeast Asian nations that comprises 600 million plus residents. Recently, Dr. Pitsuwan went on to serve a 5-year term in the highest position of ASEAN, the Secretary General, and of course, in that capacity, continued to travel the world. Since concluding his term about a year ago, Dr. Pitsuwan has held professorial positions in Thailand, Japan, Malaysia, and most recently England, from where he traveled to Portland yesterday. He's currently a fellow at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, and he'll be back in the United States in just a few months to receive the Harris Warford Global Citizen Award related to the National Peace Corps next June in Nashville, Tennessee. An international scholar, political scientist, politician, academician, diplomat on the world stage, Dr. Pitsuwan is on TESOL stage this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming him to the TESOL International Convention and English Language Expo. Dr. Pitsuwan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John. After this convention, you will be promoted to organize one of the 2 parties' convention in 2016, not in Thailand. President Dina Borai members of the board of TESOL International Association, esteemed speakers and panelists, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great privilege for me to be invited to appear before you, the professionals of teaching the English language. It gives me an immense pleasure and a distinct honor to be the keynote speaker, because I am that product of your very profession. I learned English at the age of 18, at least learned to speak it, while I was in Minnesota. Never seen snow before. And the way in which my English teacher in the classroom of that small community called Rushford trained me was to force me to enter public speaking contest. Little that I know, I found myself winning gold medal at the local level, at the sub-regional level, at the regional level, and a silver medal at the state level. And the art of public speaking has served me well in the last 5 decades. I feel both honored and also very much humbled, because I have learned English from 3 volunteers. The first one was VSO, the Volunteers Overseas Service from the UK. The second one, a couple from the Peace Corps volunteer program, John and David and Phyllis Johnston from Seattle, Washington. And the third one from Canada. So you can see my accent is very confused. Each of them would teach me to pronounce the same word differently. Mr. Lemon from the UK would say, Surin, it's either or neither. Then came David and Phyllis Surin, no, it's either or neither. Then Miss Lambert from Canada, Surin, schedule, not schedule. Well, according to Mr. Baraj Karja, wasn't he? At the University of Illinois, Karju. They were all from the inner circle of the English-speaking world. But just like Winston Churchill said, they were the same people, but divided by one common language. Just imagine a young student like myself having to face all these diversity of the English language. I'm so glad now that you have this phrase that says, the world Englishes and Asian Englishes. Yes, we do have diversity in the speaking, in the using of this very, very important language. I came from East Asia. Yes, I was the Secretary General of that regional organization called ASEAN. And it is the region that is growing very fast, and the region that is expected to be a new growth center a locomotive that would pull the rest of the global community out of the depression, out of the very difficult situation since 2008. In 2010, President Obama himself said to the 10 leaders of ASEAN at their second summit in New York, if we in America would want to get out of our own economic crisis, we would have to sell more, we would have to export more. And he said, we look around, where are the consumers and where are the markets? He said, it's you in Southeast Asia, it's you in East Asia. Hillary Rothman Clinton had this to say about this organization in Southeast Asia. ASEAN is the fulcrum of emerging architecture of cooperation in East Asia. For those of you who are not familiar with that organization, 600 million plus, like John said, 10 countries, 2.2 trillion GDP combined, 2.3 trillion trade, a lot of them with America, and a lot of them with the world. They came together in 1967, and they pledged to bind themselves together in friendship and cooperation, and through joint efforts and sacrifices, they would want to secure for their peoples and their posterity the blessings of peace, freedom, and prosperity. These stirring words were enshrined in the Bangkok Declaration of 1967, not in any of the several hundred languages of Indonesia, not in the 5 official languages of Singapore, not in the 3 ethnic languages of Malaysia, not in the regional languages of Thailand. But those stirring words were written, recorded, and enshrined in the English language. Indeed, a humorous story occurred the next day after the organization was established. A British diplomat in Bangkok wrote back to his Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London, saying that the foreign ministers of these former colonies came together and they seemed to know what they are doing. They have tried many things of these regional organizations before, but this one seems to have some hope. And he said, but we, the British, don't have to give them anything as a birthday gift. We have already given them one most valuable gift of all, the English language. It was Professor David Gradold who said that these peoples out there who learn English from the native speakers may become more influential to the world than the inner circle native speakers themselves. So watch out. We could become your Frankenstein. We may be turning the gift into a magic wand that brings forth new visions, new realities to the global community. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN is now the sole convening power in East Asia. Because other powers in East Asia have historical baggage and have problems between themselves. The Chinese and the Japanese, the Koreans and the Japanese, the Korean and the Japanese and the Chinese, the Indians and the Chinese. We in ASEAN don't have any problem with anyone. A very, very accommodating forum, threatening none, welcoming all. So they all came and continue to come to the platform, to the forum of my organization. Allow me to show you, distinguished participants, the evolving nature of regional integration and cooperation in East Asia. Please look at the first slide. The slide shows the GDP of various regions of the world. ASEAN plus 6, 10 of us, plus China, Japan, Korea, plus India, Australia, New Zealand, we call ourselves ASEAN plus 6, produce 29% of global GDP in 2012. The US produced 22%. EU produced 24%. The rest, 25%, was produced by the rest of the world. But at the rate of growth of East Asia, 6.2% a year, by the year 2030, East Asia will be dominating world economy. All these countries are connected to ASEAN 10 through what we call the dialogue partnership. Please look at the slide. The center of gravity is ASEAN. ASEAN plus 3, the next circle. EAS, Mr. Obama is in there. The Russian Putin is in there. Japan, China, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, India are all in there. EAS, East Asia Summit. Then APEC, 21 economies of the Asia Pacific, Mexico, Chile, and Peru are in there, including the US and Canada. And then the rest. That's the overlapping architectures of East Asia with ASEAN in the middle. You can feel the dynamism in trade, in investment, in science, in technology and innovation, in defense and strategic coordination, in cultural and people-to-people exchange. You can feel the urgency of our community building efforts. A Pacific century is emerging. I can say that comfortably here in the city of the roses, Portland, sitting right on the rim of the Pacific too. You can feel the quickening pulse of the region. You can feel the strong heartbeats. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the heart of East Asia beats in English. We communicate in English. We negotiate in English. We sing our karaoke in English. More than in Japanese or Korean. This brings me to my second point. The first is the growth and the potential growth of East Asia and the fact that English is being used as the lingua franca of the entire region. As you are about to deliberate on many fine points of the teaching and research into the efficacy of the English language in the next 3 days, on the theme of ELT for the next generation. Practitioners like myself, practitioner in integration like myself, would need effective communication skills to pursue our regional cooperation and help build a secure and prosperous community. English as an academic discipline is an industry. East Asia is humming and exploding with opportunities to teach, to train millions and millions of people who want to learn English. This desire is getting stronger and stronger, but it's not new. I came to Portland, friends told me you have to go to Powell's books. And I did, and I found a book, The English Governess of the Siamese Court, The Basis of the King and I. And here's what the king said to Anna Leonorens, his first TESOL teacher, for his children. And here is the first introduction. The king led her by her hands to meet the queen. This is my wife, the Lady Talab. She desires to be educated in English. She is as pleasing for her talents as for her beauty. And it is our pleasure to make her a good English scholar. You shall educate her for me. That was the charge of the King of Thailand at that time to the first teacher of English in Thailand. And then she was led to a group of children. And the king said, I have 67 children. You shall educate them, and as many of my wives, likewise, as may wish to learn English. And this is for Rosa Aronson. I have much difficulty for reading and translating French letters, for French are fond of using gloomily deceiving terms. Sorry, Rosa, that was in 1862. I think the French have gotten a little bit better than that now. But people like myself would want not only the English language, not only the grammar, not only the theories, but the communication skills. Professor Tony Wagner of Harvard, in his book, The Global Achievement Gap, said our future generation would need the following skills in order to survive in a competitive world. First is the ability to do critical thinking and problem solving. Second, the ability to communicate effectively. And third is the ability to collaborate with others in the country and cross borders. And you would think these skills have nothing to do with the English language. You would think that TESOLers don't have to worry about these skills that Professor Wagner talked about. But here is the fact. Do not think of yourselves only as English teachers and experts. You are also training the future generations to think critically in order to solve problems that they will inevitably face in their life and in their career. Because you are not just teaching the language. You are opening up the world of information for the students. You are giving the students the advantage of having more information before going into the classrooms. And they will force their teachers to be more prepared to come to the classroom. The dynamics of the classroom will change automatically with the enhancement of the English language among the students. So you will also teach them to think, to solve problems, and to work collaboratively. English teachers must teach more than the language. You must unleash the power of the common language, the lingua franca, to encourage your students to gather more information, to communicate among themselves, and to work together cross borders in the global setting. But it is an irony for me, that ASEAN has been the work of the elites who speak English, and we have survived for 46 years, and we are now the convening power of the region. But the majority of the people of ASEAN still do not have the proficiency in the English language. Again, at that second summit in New York, a prime minister from Southeast Asia asked Mr. Obama, help us with the enhancement of the English language, Mr. President. Mr. Obama turned over to Ms. Clinton and said, let's do it. Ms. Clinton got into work, asked Fulbright program to work with East-West Center in Hawaii. But the Americans are very genius in finding money. The US government went to the Sultan of Brunei and asked if Brunei, as a member of ASEAN, would help promote the English language through the Fulbright program. Luckily, the Sultan, the government of Brunei, said yes. So we have now programs of Fulbright teachers, Bruneians, and US students, US young people, helping our people, general people, to learn the language of Shakespeare. And let us hope that we will be able to communicate more effectively among ourselves with the rest of the Asian landmass, and certainly with the world and with our friends in the inner circle of the English language. Brings me to my last point, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. There is definitely a big business opportunity of teaching English in East Asia, in ASEAN. But let me remind you of this. Your commodity, your service, English, and the teaching of it are different from other commodities of commerce. Because in the teaching of the language, in the acquisition of that language, you also give those individuals the power of transformation. Because they will learn, they will acquire information, they will interact among themselves,
They will collaborate among themselves. They will learn
what Prime Minister David Cameron of the UK calls the golden thread of development. Good governance, accountability, participation, transparency, respect for human rights, all these things can be possible when the people have the tool, the language, the lingua franca, to learn more and to appreciate more and to acquire more information about how a civilized world lives. Based on these values, inspired by these principles, and organize and construct their society in a way that would respect each and every human being. Not only in Asia, but in the rest of the world, this is happening, and it is happening because of the information flow, because of the ability to communicate, because of the ability to access to information. Your mission is more than just teaching the language as a profession, or go to the rest of the world looking for opportunities for employment, an industry in itself. No, it is much, much more than that. Your commodity, the language, and your service are uniquely different from other goods and services flowing around the world today. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, I ask of you, in this day and age, what is more urgent and noble than creating that sense of coming together, that sense of common humanity, which is inculcated by one lingua franca, the English language. I feel in my 4 decades of experiences in working in diplomacy, in politics, in commerce, that what we need in the world is that common sense of common belonging to this little planet called spaceship Earth. We are facing so many problems these days, and we could not get that global consensus to resolve them or to even collaborate in search of the solutions to them. Whether it's global warming, whether it's pandemic diseases, whether it's poverty across the globe, terrorism, wars threatening to break the global community apart. So it is your mission, it is your calling to go out to the rest of the world and try to raise the proficiency of that one language, which could be a tool for all of us to construct a better future for ourselves, for our children, for our posterity. And let me end by quoting appropriately an English poet, transcendental poet of the 17th century, John Donne, who continues to inspire us in his eternal poem, For Whom the bell tolls. And this would be the sum of my presentation to you. He said, no man is an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. And he said, each man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. And I guess he means anybody suffering also my pain. Any child's hunger is also my hunger pain. Any disease affecting any part of the world, it also affects me because I am involved in mankind. Therefore, send not to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee and thee and thee, for all of you, teachers of English to speakers of other languages, members of TESOL International. Go forth and help transform the world into a better place for our children, for our future. Thank you very much.
Dr. Pitsuwan,
yes.
We have a question that was submitted by the audience, and a number of people want to hear your response to this, and I'll read it slowly.
Please.
At the Association of Applied Linguistics Conference this past week, there was much talk of neoliberalism and negative impact of English as a colonizing language around the world. How do we reconcile this critical stance with your more positive views of global English?
I think it depends on how you treat that language. For me, it is a tool to expand the mind. For me, rather than being an instrument of colonization, in the past maybe, but now it is an instrument of construction and reconstruction. In the case of Southeast Asia, in the case of East Asia in general, it's the tool that we use to integrate among ourselves in order to work together and cooperate together so that we could compete with the rest of the world, so that we could share with the rest of the world. And as I said earlier, it's expected to be a new locomotive pulling the global economy out of its difficulty. So it's very much depend. I think there's always two sides of the coin. I, as a diplomat, would like to see things positively. And I think the acquisition of the English language, in my case, personally, I have been able to do a great deal of service to my country, to my region, and certainly to the larger region of East Asia. And I do hope some part of it to the larger global community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there one or two more?
We did receive one more, and I'll read that to you.
Yes.
How can English language teaching help racial minorities, and it just disappeared, racial minorities and low-income women to come out of the woodwork? Any evidence?
I think I am one of those evidences that you are looking for. I came from a village in southern Thailand. I did not have my shoes to wear until I was 11. I had to bicycle to my high school in the city, 10 kilometers downhill, 10 kilometers uphill. without the Peace Corps volunteer teaching me English, without the TESOL volunteer teaching me English from Canada, different language, without a British volunteer overseas service, Mr. Lemon teaching me English, I don't think I would have made it here. I came from a marginalized community itself. But the fact that English could give me this opportunity, English is a social equalizer. English opens up opportunities.
And that's exactly what I said at the end of my presentation. The language, this lingua franca, this tool, communication tool, has the power of transformation of the individuals and of the societies and of the communities. I don't see it as a tool of exploitation. It would depend on the people in those communities, how they acquire it and how they use it. And I think there are good examples of those who have used it well, not only for the betterment of him or herself, but for others. And let's celebrate those rather than paying too much attention to the pessimistic view would undermine your own enthusiasm about your own profession. I think you have to go out there to the world with positive attitude, and that is, you can change the world for the better.
Thank you very much. I think that's all we have time for. I appreciate your inspiring words.
Thank you very much.